Taylor Sheridan may have just set up the Yellowstone spinoff that nobody thought of. Taylor Sheridan might have just set up a Yellowstone spinoff that hasn't occurred to anybody before. Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 13, Give the World Away, focuses on Beth's, Kelly Rayleigh, need to make money by selling off most of the ranch's livestock. This plot is a consequence of the discovery that Yellowstone's John Dutton, Kevin Costner, is dead, which necessitates taking action quickly to save the ranch, which owes a lot of money in property taxes that John's estate cannot afford to pay. Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2 is meant to wrap up the series after John's death. However, Give the World Away does not offer much movement in storylines such as Beth flaming Jamie, Wes Bentley, for John's death or cases, Luke crimes, attempts to hold the perpetrators accountable. Instead, Beth goes to Texas to oversee Travis, Taylor Sheridan, sale of some horses there, which leads to extra screen time for the cowboy, while everyone in Montana considers whether they have a future with the ranch. Taylor Sheridan's character Travis has always been part of Yellowstone. The writer and co-creator of the series appears once or twice per season as the shady cowboy who will do anything to sell horses. Travis is usually a minor part of Yellowstone, although he is also tasked with the job of telling Jimmy, Jefferson White, that John has passed away, which allows him to participate in a more emotional scene than usual. That said, Travis is back to his old tricks in Give the World Away. Beth's decision to go to Texas turns out to be well-founded, as Travis is so busy playing strip poker that he loses track of time and leaves his buyers standing in a parking lot wondering where he is. These scenes, along with Travis' attempt to get Beth to strip during a game afterward, feel like self-indulgent filler, as Sheridan gives the lion's share of screen time to himself, rather than moving forward with stories that need to be wrapped up. However, it's possible these scenes were a setup for a new spin-off focusing on Travis. Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 13, marks the first time that Travis has had a major role in an episode. Usually, his appearances are cameos meant to acknowledge Sheridan's part in creating the Yellowstone franchise by giving him a small character in his flagship show, although he began appearing more often starting in Season 4. Instead, Give the World Away dedicates approximately half the episode to Travis. Additionally, it follows this appearance with Rip Kohlhauser, telling Beth a story about him and Travis in a bar years ago after she returns. The major attention paid to Travis is unusual, especially because the scenes felt like filler. However, it makes sense as a backdoor pilot for a new spin-off featuring Travis. Such pilots often heavily feature the stars of the new series and aren't connected to other events in the main series. However, this was not the right time to attempt this type of pilot, and the poor timing could turn away the potential audience. Despite persistent rumors about Yellowstone Season 6, this season is supposed to be the final one, and Travis antics do nothing to help wrap up the major storylines. Thus, it seems self-indulgent at best for Sheridan to devote this episode to his character. If the conclusion is weaker than it should be, Sheridan's choice to promote a Travis-centered spinoff now is partially to blame because it wasted time that could have been used to set up the events of the finale. Sheridan has created a franchise that makes a lot of money for the Paramount Network. Yellowstone is popular in its own right and has spawned several successful spin-offs about earlier generations of the Dutton family, as well as one about the 6666 Ranch. Sheridan has a lot of power in the industry, and his desire to create a new spin-off will likely be taken seriously regardless of whether he plans to also star in the proposed show. However, Sheridan also writes many episodes of the shows he creates, and Paramount may be concerned about whether he has the time to both write and star in a new series while continuing to produce at least 3 other shows. On the other hand, given Sheridan's success in the past, the network will want to keep him happy so that he continues to produce shows for them, and is more likely to err on the side of permitting him to do projects he is passionate about. However, the biggest factor is audience interest. Regardless of how successful Sheridan has been in the past, the Paramount Network will not greenlight a spin-off that is likely to lose money. Thus, if audiences are unhappy with Sheridan's guest appearance in Give the World Away, or with the Yellowstone finale, decision-makers may think twice before agreeing to a spin-off about Travis. In the wide, dusty cinematic universe that Taylor Sheridan has sculpted with calloused hands and the soul of a cowboy poet, there's one rule: never underestimate where the next frontier might open. With Yellowstone galloping toward its epic conclusion, fans have been eyeing the horizon, bracing for more tales of blood, land, and legacy. We've heard whispers of Matthew McConaughey joining the fold of a sequel to the Dutton saga. But while everyone's been looking forward, or backward, as with 1883 and 1923, Sheridan may have just lassoed a spin-off no one saw coming. And it starts, unexpectedly, with Summer Higgins. Yes, that summer, vegan activist turned Dutton family. Something. The woman who clashed with Beth, locked horns with John, and ended up entangled in a relationship that felt as out of place as kale at a cattle branding. But maybe, just maybe, that's the point. Because in the ever-expanding Yellowstone universe, it's not just about who carries the brand. It's about who dares to step outside the ranch and change the story. And that's what Sheridan may be planning. A gritty, character-driven spin-off about Summer Higgins and the unlikely coalition she could form. A series that trades cowboy hats for protest signs, horses for hybrid cars, but still burns with the same moral ambiguity, the same American rot and rebellion at the center of Yellowstone. Picture this. Title: Summerland. The show opens in Northern California. Summer has left the ranch, heart bruised, soul scorched, but vision cleared. After her stint with the Duttons, and especially her brief but raw connection with John, she's seen the land in a new light. Not just the politics, not just the cattle versus conservation debate, but the power of it, the people willing to kill or die for it, the complexity of what she once saw as black and white. So she returns home, but she doesn't slip quietly into her former activist circles. No, she's different now, sharpened. She's a woman who knows the system, knows how deep corruption runs. She's slept next to it. She's buried her hands in Montana soil and felt what it means to love something enough to fight for it, though maybe not the way she used to. In Summerland, we meet a cast of characters that are as morally murky as anyone on the Dutton Ranch. There's Carmen, a burned-out former environmental lawyer who now runs a grassroots legal collective. There's Emmett, a fourth-generation farmer whose land is being poisoned by chemical runoff, but who refuses to sell. And then there's Cal, an ex-oil exec turned whistleblower, hiding in plain sight and haunted by the damage he helped cause. Together, this unlikely crew finds themselves at war with a Silicon Valley-backed agritech company hellbent on revolutionizing the farmland of Northern California. Behind the scenes, a quiet alliance between the agritech firm and a mysterious land investor from out of state. Fans will recognize the name, dropped casually in the second episode, Market Equities. That's right. Sheridan pulls a reverse card, threading Summerland directly into the wider Yellowstone universe via the villain we thought was left behind in Montana. This time, Market Equities isn't just trying to build an airport. They're trying to dominate the food chain itself. With synthetic crops, AI irrigation, and mass land acquisition, they aim to own every inch of American agriculture. Summer's new mission: expose them. But this isn't a story of purist activism. No, Sheridan wouldn't give us that. This is about compromise. Summer finds herself striking uneasy deals with local ranchers, people she once would have chained herself to fences to protest. She gets her hands dirty, maybe even makes a call to the one man she swore she'd never speak to again, John Dutton. Their conversation is brief, loaded, beautifully restrained. He tells her, "You fight for the land your way. I'll fight for it mine. Just make sure you win." The show doesn't romanticize Summer. She makes mistakes. She's accused of hypocrisy. At one point, she even considers joining a shadowy eco-terrorist group that offers to burn down Market Equity's research facility. But Sheridan makes a point of showing her struggle, torn between the easy violence of direct action and the slow, aching work of systemic change. By mid-season, she's become a regional figurehead. She's giving interviews, facing threats, forging alliances with indigenous water protectors, even confronting the darker side of environmentalism, the elitism, the savior complexes, the temptation to sacrifice nuance for speed. Through it all, the camera lingers not on her speeches, but on her silences. Her journal entries, the moments she stares at the land like it's speaking, and she's finally learning to listen.